Alright, when we're walking on Pacific tile, we want to stay at the bottom part of the panel. Stay out of the middle. You can see you can walk on it without denting as long as I stay on the front nose. Alright, so during our layout on Pacific tile, we need a minimum of a 1 pan stagger. As you can see here, it's best to keep it as random as possible, going back and forth. Alright, so when I'm fastening my Pacific tile direct to deck, we're going to have 4 fasteners in the front. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep them out of the main water channel. And then I'll have 4 in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're doing our bottom row. We're going to have that 1/2 inch overhang. So I'm going to go ahead and take those fasteners about 2.5 inches up. Keep them out of that main water channel. They're going to go down through the bottom, down through the top, just like so. And we'll have the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now that bottom row, we also need to caulk. And then we'll take our chip from our touch-up kit and throw that in the caulking just on those bottom rows. Now the preceding courses, we're going to go through the front nose. So I'm going to have the 1, 2, 3, 4, and those are going to go on an angle down into the decking. Just like so. And then on the top, we're going to have 4 as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and those will go down through the top of the panel, just like that. Now make sure we don't over tighten these. Keep that back shelf just shy of the decking. Now this panel can go left to right or right to left. We have to have a factory edge showing. So you can see I can go ahead and go left to right, or I can go right to left, as long as I have my factory edge showing. Alright, so when we're laying out our Pacific tile, we'll do the following steps. First, we're going to go ahead and do our drip edge along the eave. You can see I do it painted here. You can also choose to do our stone-coated drip edge as well. So once we get our drip edge on, go ahead and bring our code-approved underlayment over the top, just like so. Then we'll come back with our rake drip edge. Fasten that minimum 16 inches on center. Make sure you check your local codes. And then we'll come back with our rake batten. We can use our 2x2 EBS, or I can use a 1x2 and a 2x2. And you can kind of go ahead and play with this where you want. We're going to show 2 inches in from the edge. Then we'll fasten that every puck. And then with our Pacific tile, it's a 14.5 inch exposure, so we want a 1/2 inch overhang from our drip edge. So we're going to do approximately 14 inches here, chalk our line, and that will get us our 1/2 inch overhang, and it will also give us a nice straight line to start with. Then we're going to follow it with our gutter riser. So we're going to put our gutter riser down here, just flush with our drip edge. And fasten that every 16 inches. And now we're ready to go ahead and start our fill panels. Alright, when we're ready to measure our rake panels for our Pacific tile, we're going to go ahead and find this middle rib on the Pacific tile, and that's where we'll measure from. We'll measure into the 2x2, and whatever that measurement is, minus a 1/4 inch. That way we don't fight ourselves when we're installing our panels. And once we get those measurements, go ahead and write those down. And then we're going to go ahead and measure each panel while I'm writing them down, keeping them in order. So we can keep them in order once we bring our panels up after we're done cutting and bending them. Alright, when we're ready to cut our rake panels, we'll go ahead and take our list that we got from up on the roof. Go We're going to go find our profile that we measure from up on the roof, and then we're going to go ahead and mark our bend line. Then we can take a 2x2, put it on that bend line, and go ahead and mark my cut line. So then I can take it to the cutter. Take it to the bender. Hold that up for our rake. And once I get that bent, we can go ahead and put that in our pile that will be in order. And once we're all done with that pile, hand it up to the roof and ready for install. Alright, once we get all our panels cut for our rake, we'll go ahead and bring that pile that's going to be in order. And we'll just start installing these like a normal panel. Start from the eave, work your way up. Getting our fasteners in that bottom row and also the top row. Then we'll take the next panel off of our pile. Go ahead and fasten as normal. Make sure you're getting those fasteners in the front and in the back. Then just continue up the roof, taking those panels in order off of my pile. Make sure we're getting all our fasteners in. Alright, when we're setting up our 5V valley, you'll do the following steps. So we'll go ahead and do our drip edge, our code approved underlayment, and then we can go ahead and take our 5V valley. We can go ahead and cut this out if we need to. We just need to make sure that the entire width of the valley is overhanging 3/4 of an inch from our drip edge. So if we decide to do it this way, we can go ahead and put our fasteners, our washer fasteners, on either side every 2 feet. Now if we want to, go ahead and do a valley extension, where I can make this out of my flat stock. You can see we just bent this like so, and we can go ahead and place this, and this way only the stone coat is going to be showing. So we go ahead and put this one down, go ahead and do 2 rows of caulking, and then go ahead and slide our 5V valley into that channel. And now the only thing you're going to see is the stone coat. Then we go ahead and do our washer screw and put them on the outside. Every 2 feet. And then we can go ahead and bring our gutter riser and bring it flush with my drip edge and all the way to my valley edge. All right, after we get our filled panels on, we can go ahead and measure our valley panels. We're going to show a closed valley here, so we're going to want to measure into the inside of our inside V, and then we're going to measure from our profile here on the Pacific tile right in that groove. You'll have 2 measurements per panel. So you'll get a bottom measurement down into that V, and then we'll also get a top measurement going all the way into our valley as well. So as we take those measurements, make sure we write them down in order. You'll have both measurements on there. Write them in order from the bottom going up to the ridge. That way we can keep them in order, cut them in order, and then have our pile ready to go when we're ready to install our panels. All right, we're ready to cut and bend our valley. Go ahead and take our list that we got from on top of the roof. Come back, find your same profile that you measured from, and go ahead and mark that bend line on the top and the bottom. Now we can go ahead and take a 2x2, mark my bend line, and then we're going to go ahead about 3/4 to an inch approximately. Then we're going to go ahead and mark my cut line as well. Take that to the cutter. And we'll take it to the bender. And we'll fold that down since it's a valley. About 3/4 of an inch. And then once we have our pile all ready to go, we'll be in order from eave to ridge. We go ahead and heading that up to the roof and install. Alright, so once we get all our panels cut and bent, we'll have a pile that's going to be in order from eave to ridge. We'll go ahead and bring that up to the roof, and we can just start taking our panels one by one. First panel we'll get in there, just install it like normal. Put our fasteners in their regular spots. Make sure we don't put any fasteners in our main water channel, and make sure we don't put any fasteners over our valley pan. And we'll go ahead and get our fasteners on the front and also on the back shelf as well. And go ahead and just grab your next panel off of your pile. Install that as normal. Getting those fasteners once again in the regular spots, and making sure we're not piercing our valley metal. And just continue up the roof. With the rest of our panels. Fastening as we go. Now if we do need to do any screws over the valley pan, we're going to go ahead and use our 3/4 inch stitch screw. And we can stitch those panels together. Just like so. Alright, so you have options when you do the valley. We showed a closed valley here, and I can just leave it like that. So that could be a finished product. Just make sure my lines are nice and straight. Some people also, if you want to, you can do an open valley. So we take our 5V valley, put our fold down on that panel, and just fold to our first V. So that is an option as well. Just make sure we're keeping our fasteners out of the valley pan. All right. The third option, we're going to go ahead and use what we call our valley cover. So there's our valley cover that's just going to sit right on top, and we're going to stitch it to each corner of the panel. If you're worried about any debris getting in there or anything like that, you can go ahead and use our M-Seal, just our expandable foam, and you can put that up the entirety of the valley cover as well. You can go ahead and put a fold on that to dress it up. Just make sure if I do a fold, make sure I don't block my water flow. And then just chalk a line, make sure this is nice and straight. And then we'll go ahead and take our 3/4 inch stitch screws, and we'll stitch that right into our panels. One on either side on each corner. All three are acceptable options. All right, when placing my hip battens, we're going to go ahead and use our 2x2 EBS, or we can use a 1x2 and a 2x2. From outside to outside, they need to be placed 5 inches, and they need to be centered with my hip line and make sure they're straight so my cap stays straight. Then go ahead and finish your gutterizer around your perimeter. All right, when we get our fill panels in, I'm going to be ready to measure my hips. We're going to go ahead and find a profile in the Pacific Tile right there in that first groove. And then we'll measure into our 2x2. So we'll have 2 measurements. We're going to measure our bottom of the panel and also the top of the panel into that 2x2. Make sure I minus 1/4 inch of off my measurement so I don't fight myself putting my panels in. Once I get that measurement, go ahead and write down both measurements on each panel. So as I go along, measure both, write down both, so on and so forth, keeping them in order from our eave to our ridge. When we're ready to cut our hip pieces, we'll take our list that we got from the roof, find that same profile on the panel that we measured from on the roof, then go ahead and start your measurements. There'll be a measurement on top and on bottom. That will be my bend line, and we can take a 2x2 and create my cut line. Take it to the cutter. And we'll take it to the bender. Fold this up since it's a hip. And once I get all my measurements done for that pile, go ahead hand that up to the roof. It'll be in order from eave to ridge. Alright, so then once we get our cuts and bends on our hip panels, we'll have a pile just like so, going from our eave to our ridge. Go ahead and bring that up on the roof, and we can start installing as normal. Let's go ahead and place those. Get my fasteners into the front and the back shelf. And then grab my next panel out of my pile. Install as normal. And you'll be ready to install your mission cap. Alright, when we're building up our ridge with our battens, you got a couple different options. This one that we're showing right here is just a traditional stack, where I'm going at least 2 2x2s. Sometimes you might have to add a 1x2 or a third 2x2 depending on the pitch and the construction of the roof. That's just going to be a traditional stack that I can bend my panel up against. Okay. The other option would be a stack like this that would sit on top of my ridge, that I'm going to have 2 on either side to get that same height, and then the cap will fit over the top of that one and the panels will be bent up. And the third option is going to be using our ridge riser brackets. So now I just have 1 2x2 and I can adjust the height accordingly, as you can see here, depending on the height and the pitch of the roof. And so I can go ahead and fold those, place those down, and then just fasten screws in each bracket. Alright, so when we get to a ridge or a head wall, we're going to have to go ahead and measure this. So we'll just measure here, make sure I minus 1/4 inch. Go ahead and write those down on your list. And we'll take it over here. And we'll do those measurements. That will be my bend line. We'll add 2 inches for my cut line. Mark it on either side. And with these ones, we're going to bend these first. So we'll take it bender. Bend that one first, and then we can cut along our 2-inch cut line. All right, when we're ready to install our ridge pieces or head wall pieces, go ahead and place that. Install one side of the screw and come back, and you might have to reform that a little bit to get into the other side. And then once we're in the middle, just push that down and install as normal. And then we'll also want to make sure this is staying the same plane as the roof, and put our fasteners into our 2x2 header as well. Now, when we're prepping for a ridge vent, go ahead and cut your decking so your attic can breathe. Do our traditional buildup of 2x2s. And then go ahead and bring in your venting material, and then measure from the panel to the venting material. Once we get that bent, you see we're going to have a 2-inch fold up. And then we can go ahead and install this as normal, with fasteners through my front. And then we'll do our fasteners through the back. We want to make sure we don't over tighten, that way the venting material can still vent. Now once we do both sides, we'll be ready to cap this. So once we get our caps, we want to make sure that we do our buildup of 2x2s, so the cap will stay a 1/2 inch off of my decking. And we'll go ahead and fasten those. And just make sure that we're keeping our 1/2 inch off of the deck as we're fastening those. Alright, so when we're ready to do our caps on our rake, we're going to go ahead and take our Mason cap. We're going to take our 6-inch end disc, put one in the end. You can choose to fold it over, as you can see here, or keep it full circle if you'd like as well. Then we're just going to go ahead and notch our first one only. That way we can bring this up nice and tight to our eave line. So we're just going to notch that out just on that first one. So we're going to go ahead and put that on just like so. Make sure it's up nice and tight. Make sure it's staying straight on my drip edge. We're going to do one fastener down through the top into my 2x2. And then we're going to do 2 on the ends. 1, 2. So 1, 2, 3 on my fasteners. And after that, go ahead and just put 1 per course, just like so. Getting this one down into that 2x2, and then 2 on the side along my drip edge. And then just keep continuing 1 cap per course. Now these top ones, I'm going to go ahead and have to caulk these and use my granules from my touch-up kit and touch those up since they're through the top of the cap. Alright, so when we get to a place where there's 2 rakes and a ridge, I'm going to do the following steps. Go ahead and measure my cap, and go ahead and notch that out accordingly. See, we'll notch the back side here, and then we'll run this one past. And go ahead and fasten that. going to come back with our next piece. We're going to find our miter that's going to be even with my fascia. And we'll go ahead and install that right on the top, just like so. And then fasten that as normal. Then we'll come back in, get our fasteners into our fascia and our cap. Then we'll be ready to go ahead and put our first ridge piece on. Now we're going to take our ridge piece and we're going to put a 6-inch end disc on with our stitch screws. And then we're going to go ahead and cut out our caps on either side. And that will sit over the top just like so. Go ahead and put a fastener into my 2x2 buildup. Just like that. In order to continue along our ridge, we'll go ahead and just put these right on top of each other. And then I'll have a fastener on either side going into my 2x2. Alright, so once we get all our panels on, bent up, fold them over if they're a little long, then we can go ahead and put our mission cap on. Our hip starter, we're going to take our 6-inch end discs, put it in the end of our cap. You can see I've just modified this, put a bend on it, cut out my drip edge so it'll sit down nice and tight. So go ahead and put that one in there, sit it against tight on my drip edge, and then we'll have a fastener on either side going into our 2x2s. Make sure we don't over tighten or under tighten our screws. The next cap, just going to go over just like so, over our panels, and then a fastener on either side. And we'll just continue with our caps, going over hip, fastening as we go into either side. Alright, when we come into a hip ridge intersection, we'll do the following steps. We'll go ahead and find where the panel cuts and bends here. And we're going to go ahead and notch those out on either side and run the rest of the cap past. Then we'll fasten it as normal. Then we'll take our next cap. We're going to have to find our miter. So you can see there, we just got our miter. Go ahead and cut that in. We're going to lay this in a bed of sealant here. And we'll go ahead and lay that next cap right on top here. Then we'll come back with our first full piece and go ahead and just cut our angles of the other cap out. And then once again, we'll go ahead and throw sealant on both sides of those. And then place that into that sealant. And we'll go ahead and put a fastener into that 2x2. Then we can continue on with our ridges. Just come over the top of the next piece, and we're going to get 2 fasteners in that, one on either side, going back into my 2x2 buildup. Then we can go ahead and touch this up as necessary. Go ahead and use our caulking, caulk all this out, and then go ahead and bring my granules, and we'll go ahead and place those on there and make it look nice and pretty. Alright, so when we're doing a skylight or a chimney, we'll do the following steps. So you're going to find your bottom measurement, go ahead and bend and fold this just like we would a ridge piece or a head wall piece. Then we're going to find our corners, and we're going to wrap both our corners around here. Make sure we're coming a good 4 inches past with our panel, and then just flatten that out and fold around that corner. And then we're going to come back with our caulking. Go ahead and caulk down that one and up the corner. And then we're going to come back with our bent pieces. So you can see here, I got a minimum 2 inches up on my side wall. Then I'm going to find my corner and fold around my corner. Then I'm just going to set this down into that caulk. Just like so. And then we'll fasten as normal. Going down through the top and my bottom course. And getting my fasteners in the top corner as well. And then we'll just go ahead and continue up that side wall, folding up a minimum of 2 inches. And we'll just place these as normal and fasten in our fastening zones. My front nose. And in the back. Now when we get to our top of our skylight or chimney, we're going to continue with that fold up, but once again we'll find our corner and go ahead and just wrap that corner, minimum of 2 inches. And we'll place that and fasten that as normal. Front and back. Alright, so when it's time to flash our chimney skylight after we've bent our panels up the minimum of 2 inches around the perimeter, we have our 3.5 inch fascia or 5 inch fascia that looks like this, just a 5 inch face. You can use that as a counter flash to go over the top, or you can use what we call our Z-bar, and we'll show our Z-bar here today. This is just a surface mount, and you can go ahead and put the caulking on top here. So we're going to just use our general sheet metal rules, bend around our corners, and then we'll just install as follows. Just go ahead and put that one down, have that corner folded around, go ahead and fasten into my head wall. Then we'll come back with our general sheet metal rules, fold these around our corners, and then come over the top of those bends on our panel. And then just fasten into your sidewall. Just like so. Then we can go ahead, take our caulking, caulk along our sidewalls and our head walls. Then when we get to our top of our chimney or skylight, we can go ahead and take our flat stock and just create a chimney saddle pan. So we'll go ahead and put this through the top, go ahead and caulk where it's going to overlap, and then we'll just install this. I have a good 3 or 4 inches past my corner to get that moisture away from the skylight or chimney. And then we'll just go ahead and fasten this through the back, and then also through the back shelf. And then once we get that all on, we'll want to come back with our M-Seal, put it across our saddle pan since it doesn't have the profile. That way the next panel can come over the top and we won't have any worry about any wind-driven rain getting into the system. Alright, we're doing our easy vents. We'll go ahead and cut our hole approximately 29 inches by 5 inches. And then we're going to put a screen over the top. No way, no insects or anything like that get inside the attic. And then all the easy vent is just a panel that's got the vent incorporated to it. So all we're going to do is just install this just like a panel. Just right on top like so. And then we'll go ahead and fasten as a normal panel, getting our fasteners in the front and the back. go ahead and take our M-seal, and then we're going to go ahead and put this on the back shelf since that vent flattens that out. And just press that in place, fill out the back. Then the next panel will just come over the top and we'll fasten that as normal. When we're doing the sandwich method on a Pacific tile, we're going to go ahead and do the following steps. So first we'll cut our base panel out of our pipe. Then we're going to go ahead and take our pipe jack and going to cut that so it fits in the coursing. We're going to go ahead and throw caulking across the sides and the back. And then we'll go ahead and place this over the pipe. You can form that to the panel. Then we'll take our second panel, and you can do a full panel or a partial like you see here, and go ahead and cut that pipe jack out of that panel. So now we're just going to go ahead and place that right over the top. And then we'll come back and start fastening as normal. Then we'll go ahead and come back, take our caulking, we'll go ahead and caulk around that pipe jack, and then we'll cover our caulking with our granules from our touch-up kit to protect that caulking and to dress it up. Alright, so when we're doing a pipe, this is going to be your standard method. So we'll go ahead and cut our hole out here, take our caulk along the bottom here, and we'll take our pipe jack. You can see everything behind that pipe. I've created a water stop, that way if any wind-driven rain gets in there, it doesn't come back around it. So we'll lay this down into our caulking. Go ahead and throw some fasteners down into the caulking there. You can form that pipe jack towards the panel. Then we'll just go ahead and take our next panel and cut around that pipe jack, and then fasten as normal. Then we'll go ahead, caulk the top of those screws, and then go ahead and caulk around that pipe jack, and then bring my granules from my touch-up kit and sprinkle those into that caulking to dress it up and protect that caulking. Alright, so when we're dealing with a short course, we're going to want to keep our short courses down at the eave. So we do our eave the same with our gutterizer, our rakes the same with our 2x2s, and then we're going to go ahead and figure out where my straight line's coming down. So once we get that layout, we can go ahead and start from this eave line and bring it up and create that short course down at the eave. So first panel, we'll go ahead and bring it down to the eave, have my fold ups on my rakes, and then we'll fasten as normal. Down through the top on the bottom row. Get all my fasteners in, the bottom, and also the top. Then we're going to decide where that panel is going to end up on my line. And I'm going to come back with my M-seal and place my M-seal so we can sandwich this in between the two panels. Then I can go ahead and bring my next panel up where it's going to sit tight up on top here. And then we'll have my short course down at the bottom. And then we're just going to do our fasteners down through the top, sandwiching that M-seal in between the two panels. and make sure to get my fasteners down through the top as well. And then my next course, we'll go ahead and fasten down through that front nose, just like normal. Alright, so we need to finish our cap on these short courses. Go ahead and cut that cap to the short course. Make sure I'm putting my end disc on the end there. And then we'll just fasten this as normal. 1, 2, 3. So one down through the top into that 2x2. Go ahead and go on up. Full pieces per tile there. And fasten as normal. And then when we get to the top one, you can see I just notched out my panels. Go ahead and notch your cap so it fits underneath the panel. And go ahead and fasten that one into that 2x2. And then we can come up and fasten our panels down through the top on this eave line. And then just make sure you go ahead and anything through the top, these screws, we're going to go ahead and caulk those. And then we go ahead and touch up where we notched out our panel. And then come back with your touch-up granules and throw those into the caulking to dress them up. Alright, when we're installing a solar mount on Pacific Tile direct-to-deck, we'll use our direct-to-deck mount. We're going to go ahead and locate our rafter, pre-drill our holes. Take your caulking, go ahead and caulk those holes. Then we'll place our mount into that caulking, and then take our lag bolts and go ahead and fasten those into those holes. Then we'll just go ahead and take a panel and put a fastener on either side of the mount. Now it's ready to go ahead and put hardware on it. Alright, so when you come to a dormer valley, I want to do the following steps. Take your panels underneath your soffit and your fascia board, fold those up. Flash that as necessary underneath your drip edge so all the water's coming out on top. You can see, depending on where the coursing is, we folded some of our panel up and over this one where it hits the drip edge. Then we're going to go ahead and flatten out this backside where that valley's going to come over the top. Flatten that guy out. And then we're going to take our flat stock and we're going to create a valley extension. I'm going to have a water stop on either side, and you can see I just created a bend to get that water going out onto the panels. So next we're going to either take caulking and come across and go ahead and caulk across this guy, or you can go ahead and take our M-Seal and put that expandable foam in there as well. Either way works. And then we're going to take our valley extension, we're going to do 2 layers of caulking on that one. And then we're going to go ahead and tuck that underneath our valley pan. Now make sure the entire width of my extension is coming out onto the panel or over the drip edge. And then we'll go ahead and take our washer screws and fasten this guy. And then we'll be ready to do our panels. We'll install those as normal. Go ahead and fasten those. Make sure no fasteners over my valley pan. And now you can see, only thing I can see is the stone coat coming out of my valley. And then if you're going to go ahead and use our valley cover, go ahead and bring that over the top. I can go ahead and put a bend on that, just make sure I overhang that so my water's got somewhere to get out. And then I can come back with my stitch screws and go ahead and install that valley cover. Alright, so when it's time to wrap everything up and we do our touch-up kit, you can go ahead and take your caulking, do my bottom row screws, any screws down through the top of the cap, and then maybe any cuts as well. Then I can come back after I'm done caulking those, and I can bring my chip in and go ahead and dress all those up.